So when TU10 dropped, and of course before the raid, there was some, interesting mechanics that I really wanted to experiment with, some things that I really wanted to try out. And one of those centered around tip of the spear. And I'm not going to get into details about this build specifically, but it is just a tip of the spear build with a Tardigrade chest piece and a China Light mask. And you may be wondering, well, why am I using the demolitionist specialization for tip of the spear? Why am I using Tardigrade? Well, if you actually go into it, you look at Tardigrade, you get the 80% buff. So I basically, tried to roll my tip of the spear to, armor. So that way, whenever my allies or teammates armor drops, they get armor back. Right? And I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to pile this in there, and, we can go into the raid, and I'll be able to, give them a good buff with this armor and keep my specialization weapons. The other thing with Tardigrade is that whenever you get a kill with your specialization weapon, you reset the cooldown on your allies so that they can get that buff again. And I was thinking, this may come in really handy. And honestly, I think it might have a place in the raid. I haven't really experimented with it too much in there. But, if you're familiar with it, at least the second boss, that you run into the furnace room and you have to tank that boss and keep him distracted. At least one person does. Well, if you are the second tank or the alternate tank, you could have a build like this, basically just taking out enemies on the outside, and just giving him a little bit of help, just giving him that bonus armor whenever he might need it, It's not a... I'm not saying yes, this is how you do it. This is meta. I'm just saying, that is something that I was thinking about, something that I was experimenting with. But honestly, we all know specializations in this game are kind of terrible. So I really didn't like the grenade launcher because even on solo heroic, getting a kill with a grenade launcher isn't a guarantee. I mean, there are red bars who might not die to a single grenade. So when you start getting into higher difficulties, you might end up spending 2 grenades, 3 grenades on a single red bar to kill them. And if you're only recharging 2 ammo, well, then you're kind of losing the whole point of the build, right? I mean, it just doesn't seem like it's that good. It doesn't seem like it's worth it. So I changed up my specialization to just, the standard survivalist. Now, I do like the survivalist crossbow a little bit more just because it does, it does more damage, but it also does the damage to, armor plating on tanks. So you can be a fully spec'd tank type build, but able to just knock out a heavy's armor repeatedly. And I mean, that sounds like a huge bonus for a raid, especially if you don't know what's going to happen when you're going into it, right? But the problem again was it just wasn't as fun. So I ended up changing it up, and I really wanted to make a sniper tip of the spear. I put on the exotic Sawyer's kneepads, just to get that, damage buff. I ended up switching to the headhunter talent. In my mind, I was thinking, this is going to be really cool. I mean, this is going to be really strong. I mean, we know that the sniper builds can hit for, pretty good damage, right? But, I mean, the base damage on them is fairly low for most of them. So, of course, I'm over here thinking, this is going to look like Terminator 2 Judgment Day when, the liquid metal Terminator gets hit by the grenade launcher, right? He's just going to blow open. And I'm thinking, I'm going to do so much damage that the enemies are just going to, just explode. I'm going to get all these buffs fully going. I'm going to just unload. I'm going to constantly get this BMG ammo back. And, I'm just going to go to town on these guys. It's going to be hilarious. That's of course what I think a lot of the times when I put together something new that I haven't tried before. So obviously my main weapon will be the TAC 50. I mean, that's basically what I'm building this set around, using the specialization sniper. But I also included the Nemesis, just because, obviously it's a strong backup for this type of build. But I also wanted to just compare it to the 50 cal. So, I mean, seeing, how close these damages would actually get to each other. But besides that, I went, a pretty standard route, rocking a tip of the spear mask, backpack, gloves, and a holster rolled with, obviously, weapon damage and as much headshot damage as I could possibly get. Again, my Providence chest piece with headhunter on it. And, of course, I was using the Sawyer's kneepads, again, to give me that 30% buff whenever I was just sitting in cover, which, as a sniper build, you're going to be using pretty much all the time. So I'm just thinking, this is going to be some massive damage that I'm going to be putting out. But I was also using the booster hive, which gives me that 10% damage buff. So I was thinking, yeah, there's just a little bit more just to see how much I can get, at this point, it's kind of feeling a lot like a Sentry's Call from Division 1 type build. I'm just, boosting this stuff up and trying to get these headshots, and it's just getting stronger and stronger. That's what I'm thinking is looking really good. But the biggest problem that I ran into is, obviously, to get that headhunter buff fully active, you need to land a bunch of headshots. So I mean, you need to hit at least 5 headshots, 5 headshot kills to actually fully buff it. But by that point, you pretty much are only left with 2 rounds of ammunition. And if you're actually firing in a faster pace using this ammunition, you're not getting enough ammunition back from tip of the spear. And it basically just dies. I mean, at that point, there's no point in using it anymore because it's a regular build. There's no point in building around these specializations if you can't get the specialization ammo fast enough. So that was kind of the disappointment. While these builds and tip of the spear may seem actually like it's pretty useless, I do think it's an interesting set to play with. I mean, something at least to try if you're bored. But unfortunately, I really couldn't figure out the best way to make this like a meta build. Obviously, it doesn't work in PvP, so this is entirely a PvE set. And in PvE, unfortunately, we all know snipers. I mean, there are uses for them, but a lot of the times, snipers are not the best choice. I mean, you do a good amount of damage. I mean, you can get a huge headshot damage. 67 million is huge. But the amount of buildup that you need to do to get to that, the risks of losing that buff and then having to start all over again. I mean, if you are in a situation where you just can't hit these shots over and over again, then you don't get anything. There's no return for it. If you are fighting enemies that you can't actually get a headshot, or a boss where this shot won't matter because you're not going to build this stack on a boss, well, you can see the problem that you're going to run into with tip of the spear. It's just, it is not a very functional PvE build. It is almost a completely worthless PvP build, and there's not a whole lot to say about it. I think tip of the spear needs a huge rework in terms of effectiveness. I think that specialization weapons definitely need a rework. I mean, they're not good. The whole reduction to named enemies bullcrap, it's not good. I mean, if they want the set, if they want specializations, if they want this, any of this stuff to mean something, they really need to, look at it again, because it's just, especially on higher difficulty, it's not even worth it. But hey guys, thank you for watching this video. I'll see you in the next one.